Don't you just hate it when you're so confident that you're right or knowledgeable about something, but then someone else comes with new information or proof that you're wrong? Like, what? Who do you think you are? You gonna come at me? Look, I get it. I hate being wrong, especially if it's something I'm really passionate about or something that I strongly believe in. Honestly, being wrong just sucks, and there could be a number of reasons why I may feel that way. Sometimes it's just embarrassing to be wrong about something that you were so sure was right. Sometimes it feels shameful, like, how could I have not known? Or, I should have known better. Sometimes we may feel indignant that someone else is right and that we are wrong. Other times, and this one really annoys me, is when the other person is super smug about being right and about us being wrong. Like, dude, who do you think you are? Sometimes I'm not even mad about being wrong. I'm just annoyed that they're being so smug. And sometimes it just bruises our ego because we were prideful in our knowledge and in our expertise. But listen, as much as it sucks to be wrong, it's much worse to stay wrong and to stay in denial. And the thing is, refusing to admit your mistakes and refusing to even hear someone out will put an incredible strain on your relationships. In one of my favorite shows, The Office, there's this character by the name of Michael Scott. And in this one particular episode, he's so offended and he feels so threatened by technology and innovation that he tries to prove, and he goes to extraordinary lengths to try to prove this. He tries to prove that he knows what's best and that he knows how to get their old clients back. See, what had happened before this was that they had lost a bunch of clients to companies that offered website purchasing. And Michael Scott is so dead set on proving to upper management that he knows what's better for business, that he will be able to bring more business back than through technology innovation, than through using the website. So basically what he does is he purchases a bunch of gourmet gift baskets to try and win over the old clients back. And as you would expect, it fails miserably. And the thing is, he was so dead set on proving himself right, or at the very least, proving someone else wrong, that he drove into a lake. Hold on, let me back up a little bit. The story's almost done. Basically, he follows a GPS and drives into a lake to prove a point that technology is not good. Now, to all of us normal people, we know that clearly he's the one responsible for driving into the lake because he was the one driving. And even though the GPS may be giving him directions, he's the one who's actually following directions. He's the one who has control over the car and drives into the lake. And he's doing this just to prove a point because he doesn't want to be wrong. See, refusing to admit wrong and staying in denial causes us to behave irrationally, erratically, and result to extremities just to prove that we're right or just to prove that someone else is wrong. And this is just the concept of sunk costs applied to arguments. You know, when we fiercely argue for something, when we fiercely protect our stance, it can be very difficult to change our mind or to change our opinion because we feel like we have to prove ourselves right. And what happens then is that the more we argue, the more polar we become. And even when we're introduced to new information or when we're corrected or when we're given evidence that we are wrong, we refuse to accept it because we're stuck in this battle mentality. We feel like we have to be right. And when we do that, we've basically lost credibility because we clearly care more about winning than being right. And this is why we need to destigmatize the notion of being wrong. As is, most of us feel shame when we are wrong, or when other people are wrong, we have a tendency to project onto them assumptions that they are bad, uninformed, any number of things. Whether it's done to us or to others, being shamed or ridiculed puts a person in a defensive state. It's no longer about right or wrong. It becomes about winning or losing because it feels like an attack. More often than not, when we are in this state, it becomes very difficult to receive information or receive anything that may be contradictory to what we believe, even if it is correct and even if we are wrong. And then to defend ourselves in this battle, some of us may resort to discrediting the other person or bringing up other arguments or distorting their statements. And the thing is, none of this is helpful or productive. The point here is that associating shame and guilt with being wrong or incorrect causes us to be defensive and can put a strain on our relationships and make it take that much longer to be right or to go onto the correct path. Keep in mind, it's impossible for anyone to be always right all the time. It's often and easily forgotten that not everyone operates off the same access and understanding of information. Maybe they were given incorrect or outdated or incomplete information. Or perhaps they were misguided. Maybe they didn't have enough time or guidance or understanding to be able to discern what was right or what was correct. And then perhaps maybe they were unrefined. Maybe they were never challenged or questioned, or maybe they've never been confronted before about this issue. Maybe they didn't have a reason to care before, and so since they didn't have a reason to care, they didn't bother to learn more and they didn't bother to understand. Maybe they never had a reason to consider the nuances of their beliefs, of the things that they've held in their hearts for most of their lives. Keep in mind, this applies to all of us. There's always a possibility that we may be wrong. It even says in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1, "Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid." Look, don't be stubborn in receiving information, wisdom, or critique, even if you disagree. Each disagreement is an opportunity to refine and consider what you actually believe. You may not change your stance or behavior, but at least you'll have a better understanding of yourself and where others are coming from. And that's really why our pride is something to be really mindful of. Don't let pride be your downfall. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." The higher you hold yourself up on a pedestal, the farther you have to fall. And the more you profess your expertise, the greater the shame, embarrassment, and ridicule when you're wrong. See, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 basically says that a person's arrogance and disdain invites their own downfall. And that's why it's so important not to get caught up in pride in being the most knowledgeable or informed, because there's always something that you don't know. And the more that you convince yourself and try to convince others that you know the most, the more you're going to end up alienating them, and the less people are going to be willing to share new information or new evidence with you. See, the thing is, it's okay to be wrong and to make mistakes. Being wrong, making mistakes, and messing up, those are all just a part of growth. They're a step in the growing process. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, and that's why it's so important to listen to feedback and critique. See, there's nothing wrong with changing your stance, your position, or your opinions when you learn new information. That's literally education, refining your understanding of a concept as you learn new information. It's like a child learning for the first time that her father's name isn't Dad. Like, she wouldn't be wrong in calling her father Dad because, she's his daughter, but she would surely be wrong in telling other people that her father's name was Dad. So the point that I really want to drive home is that there is no shame in admitting that you were wrong. The next time you start to feel upset from someone pointing out a mistake or someone calling you out on an error, I really challenge you to question why you actually feel upset. And I know this is not fun. Honestly, I do this all the time myself. It's never a good time. But I promise you it's so worth it because it helps you get an understanding of what you actually feel, what you actually believe. It'll allow you to be more calm in addressing issues, whether it be like simple errors like you messing up on something, or if it's something really important like a debate over your beliefs. If you're able to be calm and rational when someone calls out your errors, whenever someone points out a mistake, something that you need to correct, you're going to go much farther in life because that is actually the fastest way to grow. The fastest way to grow is having other people correct your behavior, for other people to point out your mistakes. As unfun as that is, it's easier for us to see others' mistakes than for us to see our own. And when we have other people looking out for us, not being afraid to give us feedback and critique, you're going to be able to see much more clearly and much more quickly the areas that you need to improve in. As long as you're receptive and open to growth, there's no need to feel embarrassed or guilty or shameful whenever you're wrong. So here's the TLDR version. Destigmatize the notion of being wrong, It's okay to be wrong. There's no reason to feel shame or guilt around it. It's impossible for anyone to always be right. Don't allow your pride to be your downfall. And last, it's okay to make mistakes. It's all just a part of the journey. It's a part of growing. Being willing and able to accept that I may be wrong has helped me in so many aspects of my life, in so many of my relationships, not just with friends, but with family, with my parents, with people who I really care about. You know, when you're able to admit that you're wrong, others are more willing to also admit that they might be wrong. And that is crucial to having constructive arguments, to having constructive discussions, and to debating with the people that you really care about without breaking relationships. And that's something that I plan to address and talk about in the next couple videos, because all of these things build on each other. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of those videos, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you'll get alerted whenever I post those next videos. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this short message helps you to live better and live happier. I'll see you in the next video.